Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly Dharma Gathering. My name is Alex Van Gils, and I am one of the hosts of Weekly Dharma Gathering. Tonight's session will be led by Kelsey Blackwell and is titled, Your Body is Your Guru. Kelsey will lead us through a guided meditation, Dharma talk, and afterwards there'll be an opportunity for question and answer discussion. So tonight's session is being recorded. So if you'd prefer not to be seen, you can turn off your camera feature. That's in the lower toolbar on Zoom. And please note that you'll also be recorded if you ask a question. If you have a question during the guided instruction or during the talk, you can also feel free to enter it into the chat box at any time. That's also on the bottom toolbar, and we'll be able to address it during the discussion period. The recording of tonight's gathering will be accessible within 48 hours in the purchased products on the Vimeo Weekly Dharma Gathering account, and you'll receive an email notification when it's posted. So Kelsey Blackwell is a somatic coach, writer, and facilitator committed to fearlessly creating spaces for women and people of color to trust and follow the wisdom of their own bodies so that they may powerfully shine their lights in a world that sorely needs this brilliance. She is the author of the viral article, Why People of Color Need Spaces Without White People, and the guest editor of the special issue, The Necessity of Including Embodiment and Lineage in Racial Justice Work, published by The Arrow, a journal of Wakeful Society. She holds an MS in magazine journalism from the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University. So thank you, Kelsey, and I will pass to you.
Thank you, Alex. It's always interesting to have your bio read in front of you. Excellent job, Alex, and nice to see some familiar faces and also some new folks here. And I anticipate there'll be others who may join in the call, so we can welcome them as they arrive. And as Alex mentioned, we'll have some time to practice and do a little meditation together. And we will also, I'll share some ideas around our topic tonight. The body is your guru, or your body is your guru. And then we'll also have some time for embodied practice. And, you know, it's interesting for me to give a Dharma talk. I think in some ways I would prefer to do an improvisational dance or speak in a made-up language or paint or, you know, express myself in that way. But when I was invited, I was happy to participate and offer what I can. And who would have known when I got this invitation, the state that we would be in the world right now. So in some ways, it does feel like a good time to carve out time to be together in a virtual way, and also to focus on the body, which I think is something that is very useful when things are unknown. So we'll start with some meditation practice, and then I'll open it up and we can hear who's in the room and get into our topic. So for our meditation practice, allowing yourself to find a good seat. Allowing yourself to just arrive where you are. Feel yourself supported by your chair or cushion. And if your feet are on the ground, feeling the support of the earth below. And taking a moment and connecting with the sensation of breath as you feel it in your body. letting ourselves be simple, just being as we are. And to arrive in our space, I'd like to invite us to tune in through our senses, and we'll do this by closing our eyes. So if that's available to you, you can go ahead and close your eyes. It can help to shut down the visual field. And tuning in first with our sense of sound. What is the closest sound you can hear? And what is the furthest away sound? And now including sense of smell and taste, which are more subtle. And bringing in touch, noticing the points of contact we're making with our environment. Feeling the clothes on your body, and maybe even sensing inside the body, feeling the heartbeat. And finally, our sense of sight. But if your eyes are closed, letting them remain closed and sensing what you can pick up from your visual field with your eyes closed. Where you sense the light, perhaps from the computer screen, what other areas are bringing light, and if there are any spaces that are more dark. And then as you're ready, slowly letting your eyes open and letting them land somewhere in space, not necessarily focusing on the screen, but just resting. And again, letting ourselves be simple here and just arrive and be. and feeling your body, feeling a sense of softness across your chest and feeling the strength of your back. Letting your hands rest somewhere on your thighs or on the couch nearby. Feeling yourself supported. And again, feeling the body breathing, noticing where you feel the breath in your body. And allowing yourself to rest with that, to be fully present to your body breathing. And naturally, thoughts will arise. And there's nothing wrong with thinking. It's what our brains are made to do. But we allow ourselves to notice and then bring ourselves back to our body breathing. So let's do this together for a few minutes. Let's say 10 minutes. Let's take a deep breath and come back together. Welcome to those who were able to join us. Nice to see familiar faces in this gathering. I'd like to offer an intention for our time together. May this gathering be in service to connecting all beings with the wisdom of the body, learning to trust it and let it guide us towards creating a more inclusive, just, peaceful, and loving society. Thank you. You here have a mood check. So we can do this in the chat. If everyone could just type in one word of how you're doing. And the chat is accessed if you put your scroll or your cursor at the bottom of the screen. You'll see a pop-up bar and you'll see chat. So as you feel ready, you can include one word: relaxed, sleepy, well. Settling. Good. Relaxed. Tired and sore. Sure. Dizzy. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Buzzy, relaxed. The body can hold complexity. It can be buzzy and relaxed. And it is amazing how just a little bit of practicing can have such an impact. So when I was conceiving of this talk, I couldn't have imagined that this is where we would be societally. And yet, the topic is still quite relevant. You know, for many of us, our world looks a lot different than it did a couple weeks ago. Many of us are sheltering in place. Going to the grocery store is a big event, stressful for many people, putting on gloves and disinfecting everything. Our schedules might be more full than they were, or they may be more spacious. And our communities look different. Things are closed. Places that we used to go, we can't go. People that we're used to being in relationship with, we now see virtually. Maybe we have more virtual meetings happening than ever before, and feel both a gratitude for that technology enabling us to connect, and also feel the toll that it takes being in front of a computer more often than we may be used to. So, you know, it's an evolving situation, and we're stripped in some ways of what's familiar to us, and what we're left with is the unknown. Yeah, how long will this go on? Will I be able to pay my bills? How will my friends who've lost their jobs, how will they manage? Am I doing enough? Am I in service enough? Am I doing too much? Have I filled my days with too much doing and I'm overwhelmed? Am I now with my work not as not as taking up as much of my time? Am I now finding my days are filled with other projects that I've been meaning to get to? And how am I relating with that? I would say that this is the first time, certainly in my life, and perhaps the first time that the world has collectively been in a state of groundlessness. That um, we're all experiencing this sense of the unknown, and we're also seeing how it impacts uh, marginalized communities differently than those who have more resources, and feeling the frustration and anger around that, perhaps even feeling the opportunity that maybe this will wake us up to creating society in a better way. So all of that is mixed together, and how we work with that um, gives us an opportunity to explore the workings of the mind, and in that also the workings of the body. You know, when we're stripped of the familiar and we're left with the unknown, we're left with basically ourselves and how we work with that uncertainty. So, from a somatic perspective, and when I say somatic, I'm including here the body, the physical body, as well as our emotional body, our energetic body. Um, it's an inclusive, all-inclusive word to our total sort of sensory and embodied experience, which is what we call the soma. So, from a somatic perspective, there are some fundamental things that all humans need: safety, and in safety, one could also include comfort or ease, connection, so a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of not being alone, and a sense of dignity, or one might also say purpose, feeling useful, um, feeling that you're a contribution. And when the traditional ways that we meet these needs are no longer available to us, then we get to see how we are being, how we relate to that. And the how is the important part when it comes to somatics. We know the what. We know that we need we need to meet these primary needs. And for many people, one of those is a little more important than some of the others. That's a separate conversation. But we know that we need these things. And then the question is how are we being? How are we trying to meet those things? And for for many of us, it's a question of what are we reaching for? What are we consuming? How are we relating to ourselves? How have we structured our days? Um, Personally, I found that as soon as my schedule was cleared, it was immediately filled again because I had filled it with all sorts of tasks that needed to be accomplished. More on that later. The how is what we're exploring. How these things um, live in the ways in which we are moving about our world. So in Buddhism, we're taught that the path to enlightenment, the cessation of suffering, can come through taking refuge in the three jewels. The three jewels being the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And this talk is titled Your Body is Your Guru. You might also say the collective body is your guru. The interpersonal body is your guru. The intrapersonal body is your guru. And for some, the idea of the body as teacher might be uncomfortable. The body brings us to things that we may not want to deal with. It challenges us. Uh, Often connecting with the body is brings up a lot of feelings and emotions, sometimes judgments. We're conditioned that our bodies should look a certain way, and when ours deviate from that, we have feelings about that. So, in some ways, the body as teacher is perfect. And I'd like to deepen that idea by saying that, and this is my belief, that the body is the Buddha, the body is the Dharma, and the body is the Sangha. The body is the path. So the body is the Buddha in that the body is already awake. We're just obscured from its wakefulness. That the body, the Buddha had a body and he woke up and his body remained awake before and after his mental recognition of wakefulness. So the body is awake. The body is the Dharma, and that the body is truth. The body is rooted in the present moment, and it's constantly communicating what it perceives, what it's picking up from the present moment. And I might even posit that an embodied response before it before it is um, interpreted by the mind is a teaching. It is a wakeful um, response. It's a wakeful offering. And the last piece is the body is the Sangha. So it is through our bodies that we feel this uh, our inherent connection to other beings, even through this in this virtual landscape. And in this moment, I can't see you, but I can feel you. There's something that my body is registering as a presence. I used to play this game where I would stare out my window. And I lived on the second floor of a home, and there would often be people who would walk across the street down below, and I would stare at them and see who would turn to stare back. And even though we were separated by, a street and on different levels, often people would, not all the time, but oftentimes people would suddenly look up and see me. And it's like, what is that connection? What is that we feel? So the body is inherently connected to other bodies, and it is through the body that we can interpret the wisdom of the group body, of the interpersonal body. So, as I was mentioning, the body as teacher is inconvenient for many of us because um, we haven't been taught how to be in relationship with the wisdom of our body. In fact, we're taught the very opposite thing. We're taught um, to lead with the head and to lead with analytical knowledge, what can be proven. And the body navigates itself in a nonlinear, poetic way. It can speak through memory. It can speak through color. It speaks through sensation. Um, it can speak through a gut hunch. We have a lot of terms in our language about body wisdom. I just have a feeling. I know it in my gut. Um, so even though we don't center it in our traditional education, we know it. And we can come back into practice of coming into connection with this knowing in a deeper way, in a way that can guide us to our own wakefulness. So how do we work with the body uh, as our teacher? How do we take refuge in the body? And the first piece is awareness. Oh, someone says, I have a tech question. My screen is dark. Can anyone else, or is that just me? Can other people see me? Oh, other people can see. Not sure, Ella. Okay, sorry. Yeah, maybe your camera's covered. Sorry. Little distraction there. All good. Ella, I hope you can hear at least. All right. So the path of uh, taking refuge in the body. How is this done? Well, the first piece is having awareness. So just as when we start a meditation practice, we sit down, and oftentimes the first time we sit, we're flooded with thoughts, flooded with ideas. It's overwhelming. For many of us, coming into relationship with the body, especially if we haven't done it in a while, or it's been compartmentalized to a certain part of our life, and now we're wanting to integrate it into more of our life, it can bring up a lot. It can feel overwhelming. And on top of that, just like the mind isn't necessarily initially on board with meditation, the mind also is not on board with uh, connecting to the wisdom of the body or connecting to the body. It will try to talk us out of relating to ourselves in that way. It can be cynical. It can tease us, say this is ridiculous, nothing is happening, what's the point, challenging. It has the mind wants to be in charge. So initially we're confronted with all of that. But if we keep coming back to feeling the body, sensory information begins to arrive. And the more we do it, the more subtle sensory information we're able to pick up. And the as we become familiar with our sensory data, we're learning the language of our body. So just like a thumbprint that's individual, we all have a language to our body that is unique to us, one that only we can interpret and let lead us. And the way to learn this language, just like learning any language, is to practice and study. So practice is the next piece. We bring ourselves to embodied practice over and over again and learn from being in practice and deepen from what arises from being in practice. And with that, we come to see patterns. We see our habitual patterns. So our habitual patterns aren't just in our mind, they actually also live in our body. And they're like the grooves of a well-worn record, in that many of these embodied patterns we've been doing over and over and over again. And they particularly arise when we're in a state of stress, because they help us take care of one of those primary needs that we're seeking. And oftentimes these embodied patterns serve one aspect of what we're moving towards at the expense of something else. And with time, that expense starts to get louder and louder until we realize we need to do something about it. And in the doing something about it, we actually are shifting our shape, are shifting the ways in which we're taking up space or how we're moving to be more aligned with bringing in more of who we really are into our relationships and way of being. I know that's a lot. I'm going to just check the time here and see how I'm doing. I want to contextualize this with an actual example and then give us some time to practice. Okay, we're doing okay. So, story relating to this is with this virus, I it feels like it has been kind of a slow train wreck that's been approaching. Noticing the cases in Wuhan and then wondering if it was going to make its way to the Bay Area. And then, sure enough, it's starting to make its way. And then the Princess cruise ship coming into the in the bay and docking in Oakland, and wondering about the people on board that ship and what that's going to mean in the community, and if there's more cases. And so there's just been this constant kind of like background hum of watching these cases increase and increase and get closer and closer. And I had been managing by being practical. So my mind was engaged. My mind was like, let's be on top of this. Let's get stocked up on noodles and get our canned beans. Let's cancel the appointments that we had with people in person. Let's let people know that we're quarantining before it was mandated. Um, let's be prepared. And so I felt like I was managing it pretty well. And I was on my way over to Oakland, and I happened to go past the Princess cruise ship. This was a couple weeks ago. And I saw it's huge, and I saw the ship there, and also recognized that there was people who were on the ship who hadn't been able to get off, and also people with corona who were still on the ship. And I just noticed it, and continued to go about my day. I needed to go to the grocery store, so I went to the grocery store. And there, when I was picking out a mandarin for my lunch, I felt this feeling. And it's a very familiar feeling to me. It's this feeling of sort of being saran wrapped. That's both comforting and unbearable. This saran wrapped around my throat and around my chest, and it's heavy and it's sticky, and I know it. It's anxiety. So even though my head was managing and on top of it in some way, my body was indicating to me that I am scared, and I am feeling unsure, and I don't know what to do, and what does it mean. All of this was happening in a somatic way before my mind was really even making sense of that. But because I've been practicing being with my body, I could recognize those feelings as they emerged. And just as the body was indicating to me that my energy, I was moving from my chest and moving from my head, I also recognized, ah, I need ground. I need to balance out all of this energy with some earthiness, with some getting literally in the dirt. So I took my lunch and I sat on a patch of grass, and I let myself just be there with the feelings, with the anxiety. And often when you feel anxious, you don't want to feel anxious. You want it to go away. But the more you push it away, the louder it seems to become. Also, when I'm in a state of anxiety, I don't want to practice. I don't want to meditate. I don't even recognize I need to meditate because I'm so busy doing things. Um, so the body indicated I needed to sit on the grass. I sat on the grass, and I still felt that anxiety. I still felt that saran wrapping feeling, but I also came into contact with my legs and felt the strength of my legs, and I felt my booty and felt the strength of my booty, and I saw the sky, and saw kids, tween girls walking home from school. And it took me from this kind of like myopic, highly hyper focused state to being much bigger and able to hold more. And that's what we're up to in some sense in working with the body, is coming to see the ways how our habitual patterns live in us, and not shaming them or making them wrong, but letting them guide us to a more open and present way of being with that discomfort. So I'm going to take a breath there because that's a lot of words for a body person. All right, so let's see. Time conscious here. Okay, so we still have a little more time. I want to offer some practice, some body practices to support us in this time. And the body and the nervous system and the soma is like an antenna, in that even when we have, been meditating for a long time and feel that we're grounded and that feel like we're doing okay or whatever, feel like we're managing, because we're picking up on that group body, we're impacted by it. So right now the energy is up. There's a lot of mind happening right now, a lot of thinking, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. Everything is lifted. The chest is, there's energy moving up in this area, which is where we often go when we're in a state of fight or flight. We leave the body, the lower half, and we move up. So, a practice that we can do is actually to practice grounding together. And I'll ask that you just notice how you feel now. Just take a internal mood check for yourself. And we'll begin by again taking our seat and feeling the length of your body, feeling your length all the way from your feet to your head. Take a breath and let yourself feel the length in your breath. And now feel the width of your body. Feel your width across your chest. Feel the width across your torso. And feel the width across your feet. And take a breath and feel the width in your breath. And now feel the depth of your body, starting by feeling your back body. We very rarely put attention on our back body, but really let yourself just be with your back body right now, feeling the back of your neck, the area between your shoulder blades, the small of your back, your buttocks, hamstrings, calves, heels, and even lean back into your back body a little bit. Let yourself feel supported by your back body. And our back body connects us with our lineage, our ancestry, our history, so we can come to trust it and feel it and connect with our back body. And come through your body to feel your heart and your stomach. And finally, coming to feel your front body. And let there be a bit of softness in your connection to your front body. And also notice if you have a tendency to lean forward. And coming into balance between the front body and the back body to arrive right here in the present moment. And now make your hands like blades. And then let your hands go down by your sides and extend down into earth. Let your energy extend down into the ground. Imagine yourself extending down through the floor, through the floorboards, through the foundation, all the way down into the wet, dark earth. Fertile, wet, dark earth. And let the energy of the earth come up to meet you. So feel yourself extending down and feel that earth coming up to support you. And then as you're ready, bringing yourself back to a comfortable posture. And let's take a breath together. Wonderful. So now I'd like to open it up to noticings and any questions also. The noticing is particularly important because as we're coming into relationship with our body, we're learning to share what we're noticing and have that affirmed by a collective, which is not something that we get to do very often, and yet is very needed. So in the noticing, you can notice anything. You can notice how you're feeling. You can notice what came up for you. You can notice things that feel unrelated, like I'm really thinking about dinner, or for some reason I saw the color blue. All of that is in the field of noticing. And also, if there are questions, I know that I offered a lot. I hope that it made sense, or at least that some nuggets landed. And I'm open to being in conversation around anything you're curious about as it relates to the body, your body as your guru, your body as your path. So I'll see if there are any questions or noticings now.
And people might not know, but it's set right now that people can unmute themselves and turn on their own videos.
Great. Shana says, feeling gratitude to my body for letting go and taking a break. Awesome. I'm glad that you had that experience, Shana. There you are. Nice to see you. Feeling more energy in the body.
I have a question.
Is that Ella?
Yeah, I guess I could raise my hand. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So thank you, Kelsey. I'm having a hard time knowing when to trust my body right now. If it's basically having a hard time balancing discipline and maintaining some routine during these wild times while also letting go and indulging. And that's always a balance, but somehow right now that seems particularly difficult because it's all so self-imposed and it's so groundless. So I wonder if you could speak to that balance. And I wonder if you could speak to how to trust your body. You know, am I craving doing nothing because I'm depressed and this is all crazy? Or am I craving lying down because I need to lie down?
Hmm. And Ella, for you, when you say indulge your body, what do you mean by that?
Um, it could mean a few different things. Like right now, it means I'm actually lying on my belly in bed because it feels better for my back, but I'm not really sitting upright as I should in front of a teacher.
Aha. Hmm. Yeah, this is a really good point, Ella, and I'm glad that you brought it up. So oftentimes the mind has things to say about what our body is wanting to do. So our mind may say, "Oh, we shouldn't be sleeping now. We have things to do." Or the mind may say, "You should be sitting up and being a good student." And yet the body uh, is asking for something else. And so, in my experience, we over trust the mind and under trust the body, or under validate the body. And I would say that right now we're is a good time to be in practice of letting the body lead. And oftentimes the body will speak in a way that's more gentle and um, more inclusive. So when there's a shaming coming up, or a judgment coming up, or some kind of self-flagellation coming up, that's a really good space to get curious about and ask, is that true? Is what's coming up true? Oops, sorry, my dad. um, is that true? And then to see what happens when you come back to the body, and to let it be kind of like a moving meditation, in the sense that what the body needs isn't static, it's always shifting. So asking the question, what's really true for me right now? What do I really need right now? And letting that answer come from a bigger place, a place beyond the mind, but a place that includes the mind and the body. And oftentimes it will speak in a way that's not that it's, I mean, everybody's different, but in my experience working with people, it's often not like directive and shaming. Like, you must. It's like, I really need, or it would be nice, or this would feel good. And then we get to notice what the mind's doing. And I would also say, just given the time that we're in, and the just the uncertainty and groundlessness of this time, um, to be on alert for uh, the mind wanting to make a project out of things, in order to avoid just sitting and feeling and being with things. Like, now is the time to reorder my bookshelf. Now is the time to be productive. Now is the time to be of service and do more things. But oh my God, I'm so tired. And the the stress comes in is in the disconnect between what our mind thinks we should do and what our body's actually up for. And what we want is there to be alignment. And that often means coming to the body and being in question, what do you need? Is that helpful, Ella?
Totally. Thank you.
I mean, please ask if it's not, or if there's more that needs clarified, but to have a sense of gentleness.
Yeah, I really liked also what you said, like come back to the body, be curious, and then let the response come from the body, but also a, a spaciousness around the body, something greater than just me. That really resonates. Thank you.
Yes, good.
I have a question. Hi.
Hi.
What would you say about sort of habitual patterns that are in the body, that feel like they're in the body? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, one thing, it's just this moment, like it feels like a little goes a long way, just like, oh, here I am, I'm settling, it feels so good. And yet, I'm at my workspace, the home workspace, and the phone is there, and there's like these patterns. I'm checking this and that, and did I check that? So I could see that coming up during practice, and and maybe a better example too is right before the talk. I felt like my body said, "Oh, get out for 15 minutes before the talk," but then somebody sent me a cute cat dog video, and like there's this kind of, yeah, it feels almost like a habit, like the body is just like, oh, there's this comfort in these other patterns, even though I know there's a greater, so
Mhm.
I just wondered if you could say sometimes it almost feels like it's not my mind doing it, it's my body has, like, it just wants the phone in the hand or something.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, totally. And these are how our conditioned tendencies, our habitual patterns become embodied, which is, which is inevitable by having a human body and living in society and having parents and going through that whole shebang. We've all done it. And I would say that often with these embodied patterns, there's a, there's a feeling tone to them. It's like they're comforting, but they're not totally comforting. We reach for them and they give us some sense of satisfaction, but it's like eating the flourless chocolate. It's like it's not fully satisfying. It's not fully. And then there's something that, because we're not being fully, like we're not fully getting the thing, that then it continues to perpetuate itself. So, and in that perpetuating itself, it's in that feeling tone that, like, I'm eating the flourless cake, or I'm eating the hollow candy. It's in the dissatisfaction of that we actually get to have choice around our how. So this is the what am I reaching for? Comfort, connection, safety, da da da. Okay, and how am I reaching for it? And these these habitual patterns, they're like peeling back layers of an onion. So the more relationship we have to our somatic awareness, the more we have come to speak the language of our body and are familiar with it, then the more we'll be able to be in dialogue around what's going on. you know like we'll be able to see more and be able to shift ourselves with more awareness. But it's the practice of time. So initially we might not notice those things. We might continue to go to the empty movements until we get sick of them enough, and that awareness arises that we're like, I'm doing the thing. Ah, okay. And what's underneath that? Oh, okay. When what would really serve that? You know, the phone and connection is a really tricky one, for sure. And that could be a whole talk on that. and how we find that connection in other more nutritive ways.
Thanks. It's yeah, just sometimes I want to sort of interrupt them more, and I think what you're sort of advising is again, don't go to war with it, but sort of gentle awareness and inquiry, maybe. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's really the impulse under the impulse? Take a moment, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I would say just blanket statement that what's needed right now for all of us is ground and space to be kind and to feel and let it move through us what is happening, because this is this is unprecedented, and our bodily antennae are picking up all of this information from the collective body, and it's a lot. So thinking that we need to be a certain way or do it a certain way is an indication that the mind is at play, and the mind is trying to get some handle on things in whatever way makes sense to the mind. But the body needs things to be slow, and it needs to have space. Yes.
Thanks, Kelsey. My internet may have cut out for a moment when you were speaking about the story when you were feeling anxious and then lay down on the grass.
Mm-hmm.
And just when you mentioned about balancing, and it cut out for a second before that in case I missed something. If you could just talk about what you meant by balancing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so I noticed that my energy was running from here, from my head, and in that active mind, I was disconnected from my body. I was disconnected from myself. I was disconnected from my legs. I was disconnected from my lower stomach. There was a lot of energy here and a lot of energy here. And what I've come to know about that is that I need access to my full body in order to be fully resourced. And by resourced, I mean to have the capacity to be with the complexity of our world, to have the capacity to be with the complexity of interpersonal relationships, to deal with money, to deal with all the stuff. If I'm only operating from here, then I'm operating at a deficit. So I needed a practice to help bring those other parts of my body online. And being on the ground was what was called for. And that being on the ground put me, we're not necessarily erasing or trying to push away feelings, because that doesn't work. It just makes them get louder. So we're learning how to include more of ourselves. Often when something arises that's uncomfortable, we focus on it, and there can be this oh no, and then it's like, let's get rid of that. Don't want to identify with that. And so this practice of getting on the ground allowed me to create more space to be with that sensation that was happening, and still happens. I feel it now, it's just what's in the air. And to be with the rest of my body, to be with my legs, to be with, and that connected me with more, that there's more going on. I could see the sky. I could see the people around. I wasn't just in my storyline anymore. I was connected to something bigger, which gave me more capacity to be in my day, and also to be with what I was feeling. So that was the balance. And then bringing in our practices some time to ground, because I believe that collectively that's the energy that's very prevalent right now, is the fear. And it takes us up here so quickly. And even if we're working with it, we're in it. So we're going to feel it. And it can be difficult to discern what's mine and what's someone else's, what's mine and what's in the collective space. But on some level, it doesn't necessarily matter. When we feel it, we work with it. And then the more we work with it, the more we're able to make that discernment. But we don't have to figure that out right off the bat. So working to bring in ground and to feel our full presence is a practice that we can take to connect with our body wisdom and practice learning its language.
Thanks, Kelsey. That's really helpful.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I think, how are we doing? Alex, are we done with time? Oh, okay. 5:15. I don't know. Are there any other questions?
I think if there isn't one more question, we could close, or we could take one more short one. Why don't we close if it feels good for you, Kelsey?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kelsey, so much for that very needed wisdom and exercises at this time. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Also, just a reminder that if you did miss anything else, or if you wanted to hear anything again, I know there are things that I will want to hear again, including the exercises. This will be posted back on the Weekly Dharma Gathering website in 48 hours. So please join us for next week's gathering on Wednesday, April 1st with Joy Gutierrez. That one will be called Dissolving Boundaries During Times of Uncertainty. And you'll be able to find more information on our website. Consider becoming a subscriber if you are not already. We have a 7-day free trial that you can find on our website. Tell your friends. It's weeklydharmagathering.com. And in addition, you could find us on Instagram at Weekly Dharma and on Facebook at Weekly Dharma Gathering. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Kelsey, and please have a great rest of your night. I can see here that Kelsey is sharing her website in the chat. It's kelseyblackwell.com, and
Yes,
her
so
newsletter.
That's a link to my newsletter if anyone wants, if anyone's not on that list and would like to be. That's where I share more information about connecting to the body and body wisdom and workshops and other things like that. So if you're interested, please sign up, and I'd like to see you again. Thank you. And thank you so much, Alex, for inviting me. This was fantastic.
It was fantastic. Thank you, Kelsey, for coming. And have a wonderful evening, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Bye.
Bye.